Hello, Magnus here, and welcome to the Let's Play and Review Live series. Today we've got a special treat. We've got two games instead of one from the early 2000s. Actually, both of these came out in 2000. For the PlayStation, we've got Smackdown, Know Your Role, and for the Nintendo 64, we've got No Mercy. Now, what I'm going to do is compare these games and pretty much give each of them a score to really find out once and for all which one was the better series. Now, if you're new here, please consider subscribing, and if you're watching live, hit that like button. Let's get those likes up and going. But without further ado, let me break it down to you how I do these reviews. I break it down into 4 categories, and I'm going to do 4 categories for each. Is the difficulty appropriate? Do I find it fun today? Were the graphics impressive for the time? And do the graphics still hold up today? But without further ado, let's get to this comparison. I'm going to put both of them side by side and see which one scores best out of 20. So we're going to start with Smackdown, Know Your Role. So here we got going on the loading screen. And let's see how this one starts up. I haven't really played these games since then, so it's kind of like a new experience for me, even though I've played both of them, although I was more of a Smackdown guy. And because these were made out of CDs, they had the cinematic intros, which was kind of interesting. You know, because PlayStation supported, you know, pretty much video off of these, you know, off of its system. But when you look at the 3D graphics for the time, it kind of was speculative if you were or were not entertained. So we'll skip this intro. If you want it, you could play the game yourself. Now, what I'm going to do is have the same matchup in both games for the PlayStation and the Nintendo 64 to see which one holds better, to do a fair comparison. And the match will be coming up. Now, one thing that the PlayStation version you have to remember is that you have a lot of load times. So, speaking about the Smackdown franchise in particular, Smackdown is actually still today active. Smackdown was the first of its kind, but then the series eventually evolved into the WWE series and then evolved into the WWE 2K series. So the original engine or the idea actually came from back then. So I'm going to choose The Rock in both campaigns, and I'm going to have him fight Triple H. And just pretty much leave everything standard, not change any options. Let's see if I could change the arena to give a comparison. Okay, that's decision there. Let's see rules 2. Interference. Okay, arena. I'm going to choose Raw. We'll go with the same arena for both as well, so we could do an honest comparison of everything. So far, I mean, the loading screens are a bit funny because they have these old wrestlers that I remember from back then at the time, like Stevie Richards. But here's The Rock's entrance. It's nice that they have the video, but no entrance ramp, no graphics. I mean, they're keeping it simple here. But he seems to do his authentic intro, and for the rest, I guess you just gotta use your imagination.
1, 2, is this on?
Yes, and this is Triple H's song at the time. I'm a big wrestling fan too, so this should be good. And one thing about this series I gotta mention is that PlayStation did have a couple of WWF wrestling games at the time that were put out by, I believe, Activision, and they were somewhat subpar when it comes to the actual wrestling engine. I say Rios. What happened to these guys? Alright, so this one completely changed the engine because it was ground up and it had a lot more going on, and it played pretty fast. Now, I haven't played this since, so I'm kind of new to these buttons, because the buttons on this system also, I mean on this game also changed heavily. So I'm gonna try my best to beat Triple H here, but now It's very quick, very arcadey, very kind of like just boom, boom, boom. It's almost like no selling. They're not doing anything to react to the hits. They're just like, ouch. Okay, he does that, but then he like flips up like really fast. I mean, this game is insanely fast. That's one thing I can honestly tell you is to get a hit in is pretty tough. So this was the last wrestling game for WWF on PlayStation. The very next game was the next Smackdown game, but it was Just Bring It, and it was for the PlayStation 2. So graphics improved immensely. I can tell you at this time, you can tell that the graphics have not aged well. The faces look like painted on, but they look painted on, but they at least they move fast, and there was, I almost did the Rocky spit punch. See, he does that in succession, which is pretty good. Countering is like next to impossible. It's almost luck based. Oh, and here we got interference by Road Dogg. These interference situations were completely random, but if I have a fighting chance, I mean, I'm really trying here, but having a poor memory of anything that happened in this game makes it difficult to do any move and hope that you get it without him moving out of the way real quick. Another suplex, and he's not even trying to counter him. And look at that, without selling, he just recovers pretty quickly. Now from the Smackdown series, the story mode in itself was marred with the fact that it was just, you had to sit there and wait for other matches. You could skip the matches, but you still had to wait for energy bars to pretty much load up before it would continue. And then you'd have just these random story segments which really had nothing to do with your story as opposed to actual wrestling events that happened back in the time, mixed in with some random events that the developers just give to anybody for no apparent reason. So, like for example, before you unlock Stone Cold, you have to get to the portion where he blew up the DX truck, and then you get Stone Cold back, which was nice. But at the same time, why couldn't you get Stone Cold right from the get-go? That would have been nice, especially since he was such a popular wrestler. Though on the cover of both games was The Rock, and I do not think I earned that victory. I didn't even get my special up, and already I earned a victory. Well, it's a nice winning screen. The arena is at least there with the music playing, and the camera, I like the camera angles that it played for most of the match. When it would transition to a move, it would make it interesting with photography flashing and whatnot. So all in all, it's a good game, but it's very fast and you barely have time to react. Presentation is pretty good. I like the fact that they have authentic music and authentic videos for the entrances, so that was nice. I'll give my final tally at the end, but we're going to keep it going, and we're going to go to the Nintendo 64 with No Mercy. So here we are with No Mercy, and let's see what their entrance was like. Now, Nintendo 64 was a cartridge-based system, so off this cartridge-based system, we're going to see a lot faster loading and a lot of compression with audio that you had to have for the time. So let's see what the entrance actually looked like as compared to the video of the PlayStation. Classic. No Mercy.
Oh my God! So close! He kicked out! He kicked out! He kicked out!
So as opposed to actual live video, the Nintendo's got a couple of actual in-game engine wrestling sequences mixed in with actual pictures, which is pretty good. Actually, very good. And they could do this because cartridge-based almost had little to no load times. So let's get right back to the same match that I was just having, but in this game. So exhibition, single match, and the actual music to this is not bad at all. So back to Raw. The Rock versus Triple H. I mean, everything's going quickly. Now though the resolution looks better, the wrestlers look atrocious. Okay, let's check out the entrances. Obviously highly compressed pictures of the entrance. But you got a fully rendered stage as The Rock comes out with no personality, and it skips it. No good. And the audio quality is nowhere near as good as the PlayStation. Now here comes Triple H with Stephanie. He's got a bit more personality. And Stephanie looks pretty bad. Limited personality. Okay, a little bit more pace before the actual match starts. The arena and the details look a heck of a lot better on the Nintendo 64, but that's also based on the fact that Nintendo 64 had a much higher resolution than the PlayStation. And the match is a lot slower based. Now this seems a bit more like a focused setting. Camera angles are pretty creative too. I like the fact that they do replays. I mean, it's hard to compete with this game when it comes to actual wrestling acumen and the fact that you actually feel like you're in a wrestling match. It doesn't do a bad job selling. I mean, he's down and he's breathing. You know, he gets up realistically, at least more realistically than the role that they were doing in the PlayStation. And I almost feel like I could do more. See, that was a good sell when it comes to the low blow. And this was a game that I did not play back then. Well, I played in 2000 when it was released, but not much after that. So this was one of the last games by Aki for the WWF license. And when they lost the license, Aki, who was the developer for this, still had a wrestling engine built, and they wanted to release another wrestling game. So they actually partnered with Def Jam and released a Def Jam wrestling game. Actually, two of them. One is just Def Jam something, and the other one is Def Jam Fight for New York. But it was essentially this engine just improved somewhat. So far I'm having fun with this. I could tell you that it's a good experience. Taunting is there. Putting on a show. Drag him out to the outside. Alright, let's go here. I don't know why my game is glitching a little bit. Let's get back in the ring, I guess, if we don't want to glitch. But that had nothing to do with the actual game cartridge. It's just the software that I'm running to run this at the same time as doing my streams and multiple systems is what it's causing it. But I can tell you the one thing is, like, playing this, I am having a bit more fun than the PlayStation. PlayStation wasn't bad, but it was too hectic and one-sided. I feel that this is a little bit more balanced when it comes to what's going on. And it just seems almost like you could do more with the wrestling. Count two. Presentation-wise, it's good, though I believe that Smackdown had a bit more to offer when it came to presentation. Now, you could go backstage here and go into different sections of the arena. As well, you can do that on Smackdown too as well. So backstage in the early 2000s was a big deal too. If you could go backstage and wrestle, it was something that was just a little bit extra, that added a little bit more drama to the show and wrestling in the early 2000s and late 90s, and even to the wrestling games. It gave it a little bit more depth than just being in the ring in front of the same boring crowd all the time. So half these wrestling moves, I don't know how I'm doing or pulling them off. They're just coming out. So alright, let's see if we can pull something off the top rope. I gotcha. Oh, another low blow. Triple H is putting a number on me. Alright, Triple H, you're going down. Now, how do I pin? I can't remember how to pin. If anyone's out there on the chat and is at least near their keyboard, can you tell me how the heck I'm supposed to pin this guy? Because if not, this might be a long match. I do remember how to do the finishing moves, but not so much the actual pinning combinations. Either that or I'll just make him submit. Tap! Alright, buddy. Alright, buddy. Take it easy. See, the blocking in this, or the reversals in this game, as opposed to the Smackdown game. Smackdown had you just counter whenever it just happened. But for this game, you just bulk up your chest like this. Like, I'm the toughest guy in the world. You can't hit me. Of course, you can't reverse a grapple that way without luck. But at least for strikes, you just act like you're pretty much the hardest guy in the game. Alright, get up. And reversals were just random. Like this, I couldn't pull off a reversal. Gosh, but I can tell you this much. After a while, I mean, repeatedly fighting him, it gets boring. I think I figured it out. And a 2 count. I beat Triple H by submission in the last game. I'm gonna beat him by pinfall here. Now, what was weird is that I couldn't even get a special up to do a finisher. And nice reversal. Couldn't do a finisher in there, and a finisher here. Look, no matter how much I beat up Triple H, he seems to be building up his finisher before I can build up mine. And that was a big staple. You didn't want to do a finishing maneuver too quickly in this game. So they always gave you energy bars or certain kind of momentum meters to make sure that you can reach the end. Oh, and I just went for... Now that was funny. I went for that pretty quickly, and it still happened. Now, the audio for the Nintendo 64 is not bad at all for the time. If you are not unfamiliar with gaming from the 90s, any cartridge-based system had to have very highly compressed sound and video data, because these cartridges were small. I'll give you a comparison of the difference in size when it comes to this game versus Smackdown. This game had a space of 25 megabytes. 25 megabytes was this entire game. Looks like I won. And on the Smackdown game, it was a whole 440 megabytes. Now let's see the windscreen. We rotate around the rock. We've got a couple of replays, which is him standing there and dropping over for the pin. That was probably the 3 count. Anything else? A win celebration of the ugliest rock I've ever seen before it fades out and it's done. It looks like I won that match. Well, there you go. SmackDown versus Raw. SmackDown versus No Mercy. What did you guys think? Now I'm gonna score both of these games based off of what I just played, and I got my little sheet right here where I'm keeping the score. Let's see if you guys can see that. It's very bright, but I'm keeping the score on this and using my little pen. So first metric is the difficulty appropriate. For SmackDown, for the controls and trying to get used to everything while Triple H was just beating the tar out of me. I mean, I still won, but I think it was a little bit too fast and a little bit too difficult for the time. So even now, to be quite honest, you pick it up, you're just going to be turned off by the fact that it was just too much going on. So I'm going to give the score a 2 out of 5 for difficulty appropriateness. Now, No Mercy is a bit slower paced, and you still have to learn all the buttons and what's going on, but the difficulty seems to cater to that, at least when you first start the game. So I'm going to give the difficulty 4 out of 5 points for No Mercy. Now, do I find it fun today? SmackDown, I can relate to it because I appreciate the wrestling from the time and a lot going on, and it's really fast. And the difficulty, though off-putting to some extent, it was still a fun experience, and I knew I could do a lot there and pick the different wrestlers or have the different match types. So and even though I kept it to 1, there's a ton of different match types, including Hell in the Cell for that game, which made it that much more fun. So I'm going to give it, do I find it fun today, a 4, because to revisit those match types would be fun. No Mercy, without a shadow of a doubt, this game with the customizing abilities that you can do with this and the actual a story mode that could branch off into so many different directions regardless if you win or lose, and the nostalgia feeling puts No Mercy a little bit over the top. So I'm going to grant it 5 out of 5 points. Now, are the graphics impressive for the time? SmackDown, for the time, I do remember when I first stuck it in the PlayStation. Now I'm using my headset, my mindset from the time. And I looked at the graphics, I'm like, this is not pretty. I like the presentation, so I'll give it up a notch for the presentation of the fact that they had, the actual music, the music videos of the entrances. You had a good celebration at the end, whereas No Mercy lacked that. But the actual wrestlers themselves and the jaggedness of the entire presentation knocked it down for me personally. So graphics at the time, I'd say a 2. Now, No Mercy looked pretty impressive on the Nintendo 64 with its high resolution and all the items included in that game. However, I have to knock the fact that the wrestlers look so ugly and blocky, and they all look the same for the most part. The same kind of blockiness. Some were bigger or smaller, but for the most part, the presentation from the graphics standpoint were not as impressive. And the fact that you didn't have the full entrance music or even the entrance, they would cut off the entrance. Graphical presentation is just, high resolution, but uglier wrestlers. So I'm going to have to give it also a 2 out of 5. And then finally, the last category is, do the graphics stand up today? SmackDown, do the graphics stand up today? No, a 1. 1 out of 5. No Mercy. Do the graphics stand up today? Looking at the game today, as respecting it as an older game, but still enjoying the nostalgic feel of it and the fact that the resolution is as high as it is, I'd say that the graphics are more impressive now than they were at the time. And the reason they're so impressive now is because you don't expect too much from what you see. And then when you look at it, you're like, oh, it's not bad. It still has that nostalgic feeling. So I give it higher points now because those graphics did a lot better job in lasting over the years than SmackDown's. So SmackDown, based off of all the categories, 2, 4, 2, 1, at 6, 8, 9 out of 20 points. And that type of score makes it pretty much play if you like PlayStation games. Now, No Mercy got 4, 5, 2, and 3 points, so that's 14 points. And with 14 points, that recommendation would be play it if you like that generation of games. Basically, that console generation, not just Nintendo games. So with a score of 9 for SmackDown and 14 for No Mercy, you gotta give this one up to No Mercy. So let me know what you guys think in the comments if you want to chat live or say anything live. But if not, that's okay. Leave me comments when you do actually watch this video. And you can like, share, and most importantly, make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. Thank you for joining. We're growing, and I like that. Slowly, but growing. So if there's anything else, let me know, guys. But if not, you guys can take care. See you later. Bye-bye.